Hello, peoples. How are you doing today? I want to talk to you about security. I don't know if a lot of people understand VAWA, women's suffrage from the Constitution, Department of Justice, and things of that nature, understanding that women have been called men and men have been called women. I wanted to, have a conversation because somewhere in there, there's a miseducation about just the little things that make a person upset. Matter of fact, through your right eye, through your left eye, somebody else want to reel a story about certain things, and then want somebody to get upset about security. Somebody is listening to those things, and matter of fact, other people are probably writing laws on those mannerisms and behaviors, things that infringe and impose security. If that woman don't like it, or that man don't like it, then yet that would be the same thing that somebody else doesn't like. They complain, they fussing, they sitting there wanting to call God knows who. They want to sit there and say this, that, and the other. All the while, we thinking it's okay to tiptoe and do things that make a person upset. Understanding here it is how laws are written. Matter of fact, I was reading something and they said, well, case law seems like here it is, the standing law, whatever that is, a statutory law. What I'm saying to you is that if you are with somebody and you're doing certain things to them, no different. It could be personal, or here it is, a coworker. It's just some things are just against the law. When you're going on bothering people, it's just that. We need to understand upfront. And I had explained, and I'm explaining about nations and kings and kingdoms being toppled by your little simple stuff. They were able to use people that they would say they own people, and then yet be able to topple people and nations and countries just with the conversation of women's suffrage. The conversation of here it is, VAWA. And so when we begin to look at, let's see if we could get her upset. Now here it is, that structure or that system or that process. It's law. Then you want to sit there and say, well, listen, the police are doing it. Well, then that's a fucking problem. The reason why it's a problem because the argument about being in a police state and then that argument about militia law. It doesn't matter if you in the military or if you think there would be no reason why you would impose restrictions, not only restrictions, but fear in people. Somebody they have to go the extra mile. Now you having them, that's an angle for you. Buy security cameras, purchase a dog, get extra locks, get bar doors, bar windows. Yet these are extra measures for people that want to protect themselves and protect their belongings. But it's the thing and the point of somebody else who's doing it and not understanding, even if somebody's watching you, not understanding that there's other things that's connected to it. Because whatever one person doesn't like, there's other people that don't like it too. They don't like it. And the reason why they don't like it is because they don't want nobody to do that to them. Man, we've seen stories where not only natural resources, but art pieces and things of that nature was actually stolen. And then they had conversation of having things retrieved. I mean, people, rich people. Rich people, what I mean by that is people who are running countries. I don't know if rich people are complaining. You don't hear it on the news. You know what I'm saying? It's like, here it is, that little thing. But there's people who are affluent and opulent. You'd be like, okay, well, where are their resources? Or, now, God forbid, but to be like, why they not messing with them? We had a couple of stories of, here it is, some people who were, and they want to say, oh, it was inexpensive jewelry. They were complaining that it was a lot of money, but then somebody else had analyzed it, or did and said, "Oh, it was in it." But it doesn't matter. What matters to that person that felt like somebody would cross them was that they had entrusted somebody to to be in there with their possessions, and somebody took it. If they wasn't that, it was some. If it wasn't that, now you're talking about a person's persona. Somebody want to sit there and blackmail people or this, that, the other. These things are written down and people are seeing it. And yet here it is, just let the story be told. And you a sad song. You know, we would have stories about paparazzis and yet those complaints and people saying something about this and that. And we see it like on TV. You know, somebody said, well, Irene, we're watching you. And I said, oh, I'm watching you too. So all that neighborhood watching, you mean tell me I'm complaining? Or no, not complaining. I'm trying to explain to you about security. Your staff, you would assume, is no different than employment. You wouldn't assume that your staff would be stealing from you. Matter of fact, it was even simple questions even about a pencil. If it wasn't a pencil, they wanted to say, ask you about a Sharpie or a highlighter. Now, if your employer is going to ask you if you're going to take a pen, well, this is a whiteout. But if he's going to ask you if you're going to take a pen, then it means something. Now you're talking about trust. But then if we're talking about some kind of game or initiation that the police want you to do, or they, you know, oh, we got hot, we cut, now we have a concern for our environment. You know what I mean? Oh, here it is, we want to be with you. Oh, you took the calculator. Things that you don't think about, you know. But you do have some employers that will ask you. You understand that I say, well, when you're getting hired, well, how you think about this, that, the other, you know, are you legit? You know, are you trustworthy? Are you dependable? Are you reliable? You know, could we trust you with such and such and such? Is the till more than $10 short or whatever? And they would ask you these questions. Matter of fact, this is a little awful, but I was someplace. And they want to sit there and say, well, listen, we want to see how this person. I say, ain't that about something? They wanted to take somebody through the rigmarole to sit there and say, well, this person could entrust them with their money. And my thought was is that after they won that first X amount of dollars, did they use the same woman for the other X amount of dollars? But she felt like they had entrusted her. But they were spending it on her own land. Yet her application, matter of fact, she could have filled out that same application for another group of people. But it was what she had experienced. They talk about, oh, here it is, see this people here. And I just said, well, why she didn't take the time and fill out that same information and been able to court other people inside another environment that was having the same complaint? She could have, but she didn't do it. Security. Now, the thing is to be so loose about security and have a misunderstanding about here it is a person, something small at a bigger picture. Looking at king, looking at reign, looking at nation, looking at people. I mean, they really do have security at cemeteries. There was a time people were afraid, or no, the mortuaries were hiring security because people were doing awkward stuff even with people's remains inside the cemetery. You would be like, well, why do you think they would lock it up? Now, when we start looking at all these different areas of why we need the sheriff, why we need, here it is, ATF. There's a whole lot of security going on in the United States of America. So when we begin to look at one person and just look at, here it is, oh, let's game it. Now I'm concerned about that woman. I'm like, well, why are you spending so much time with here it is and have those kind of conversations and thoughts? It's beyond here it is and it. And yet here it is, we ain't talking about it. That woman, look at this, how we able to get this woman to do this. Look at that. It's awful. It's that little thing. Oh, we hear this because you said this. And I said, well, I ain't gonna lie to you, honey. I would have been the first one to tell you that I wouldn't have want them to play me to be like how they want to be talking about how they half of the stuff to tell you the gun honest truth. And when I say they, I'm talking about people who think that they have, well, not think. This stuff is for real. Other, matter of fact, you could just go on YouTube and you can find a lot of conversations about conspiracy theories. How do we approach those things? It's mental. They have an entire government department and focus on mental health. Matter of fact, you don't even have to go to Health and Human Services for that. And there's an entire website for that all by itself. Mental health all by itself. Because now you have to, there was funding for all your senses, for your brain. Here it is, trigger. Here it is, a lot of stuff. And we have people who is in STEM research. The point that I'm making is what will make a person want to do wrong when yet you have people who was right, want to do right. Then I look and think about different people and they would say, well, this is that. And I'm like, well, why would they spend that much time trying to interfere or bother somebody who want to do good? And so when I start talking about superheroes, I know it's a little long, but I'm just trying to get to the point or making sure that we understand the point. So they had the superhero, and the superhero was considering himself doing good. But then the bad person or the bad hero, it was like, well, what was they doing that the superhero wanted them to do or change? You've seen Batman and Robin. I think it was another one. It was like, okay, well, why do you really almost could pick a side to either one of those heroes. What was one doing for the other one who wanted to fight the other one? So when we begin to look at certain things, that's what it seems like. So the support of us understanding the small things about our safety, our protection, our security, the thought about policing, the thought about laws, the thoughts of any of those things that's relative to judicial system. Oh, honey, I don't want you to bring that inside the house, you have people scared or whatever. Oh, here it is, then, and you'd be like, okay, if you want to be kind of concerned and everything like that, but then, you want to be able to protect yourself, hey, no, don't do this, you want to, I don't want to be bothered, don't do that. And it was that was rested. I said, well, who the hell are we going to call? Who are you going to explain that to? Oh, now you go to whatchamajigga, you're filling out the application, and those things become a process. Someone is taking, here it is, the understanding, it goes into a system. When you think about your family members, you could call them, and that thought of avoiding, here it is, trouble with your people or anybody else. Now it become hush. And then you got complaints. It's hush and you got complaints. It's things that make you get vexed. Boy. Reality. Security. Let's look at, here it is, the Constitution. Let's look at civil rights. Let's look at, here it is, the Declaration of Independence and Constitution. Human rights. Matter of fact, human rights have a lot of information that's relative to civil and relative to Constitution. It talks about your personal property, your personal space, and real property. And that speaks a whole lot of value, not only for yourself as an individual, but also um, your community, because the thing is, when we look at one thing or the other, oh, it is, some people are able to get away with a lot of things with ease and a breeze. Then you have other people who want to be like, oh, I'm going to try to wrangle with you. All right, people, check, honey. We had the conversation about security. Understanding that here there's a small little something could be something much bigger, or they want to make something out of that. And that thought about kings and nations and people, I was like, wow, where are art pieces? Where are these things? Where are those things? If we're just thinking that these things are okay, well, who's going to protect you to protect your things? Now, people, person, place, or things, check.